Guys, welcome to the dark domain of the Knight of Gotham. Batman isn't a superhero. He's a legend who has captivated our souls for nearly 85 years. But not all Batman stories are alike. Some are just great, and some change the entire history of comics. Today we're here with the top 10 best Batman comics of all time. A list that not only shows you the stories of Gotham, but also unlocks the complex mind of Bruce Wayne for you. If you want to know which story caused Batman to become a global icon, you have to stick around until the end of this list. Let's go. (10) A Death in the Family. We start with a story that brought tragedy permanently into the world of Batman. A Death in the Family. This comic, written by Jim Starlin in 1988, is the story where Jason Todd, the second Robin, is brutally killed by the Joker. The key point here is, DC unprecedentedly allowed readers to determine Jason's fate through a phone poll, and they voted, by a small margin, for his death. This story not only demonstrated the Joker's ruthlessness, but was the first time we saw how deep and painful Batman's defeat could be. This comic transformed Batman from a cold detective into a grieving and angry man. This tragedy changed Batman forever. 9. Arkham Asylum, a serious house on serious earth. If you're looking for a completely psychological and artistic experience, this comic is for you. The surreal work by Grant Morrison and Dave McCann brings Batman into Arkham Asylum, which has been taken over by the inmates, and the Joker has invited him in. This story is not a physical fight, but a deep exploration into the fragmented minds of Arkham's patients and Batman himself. McCann's dark, inky paintings make this comic look like a gothic horror film, one that shatters the line between madness and sanity. This comic proved to us that Arkham is not just a prison, but a living evil force. 8. The Man Who Laughs. We must figure out exactly how the Joker became the Joker. This comic, 2005, written by Ed Brubaker, shows us the first real confrontation between Batman and the Joker after the Year One stories. In this story, the Joker for the first time releases his toxic laughing gas over Gotham and transforms into that destructive, chaos-loving figure. This comic defines the Joker's strange madness and motivations in the best way possible, showing that this villain was the most dangerous threat to Batman from the very first moment. This comic is an essential introduction to understanding the beginning of this eternal conflict.
7. Hush. If you are looking for a classic Batman story with modern action and complex mysteries that features Batman's entire rogues gallery, Hush is your choice. This comic, written by Jeff Loeb and, more importantly, illustrated with the phenomenal art of Jim Lee in 2002, is a visual masterpiece. The story is about a complex conspiracy in which a new, bandaged villain named Hush uses all of Batman's enemies, from Joker and Killer Croc to Ra's al Ghul and Poison Ivy, to try and dismantle Bruce Wayne's life. This comic is a brilliant detective story where Batman must uncover the true identity of Hush, someone who uses everyone close to Batman, even Superman, for his destruction. Hush is the only comic that shows the relationship between Batman and Catwoman to this degree of depth and challenge. Jim Lee's art, including his images of Batman, are truly breathtaking and represent the gold standard of modern Batman comics. This story, full of action, emotion, and mystery, is a completely entertaining and essential experience. 5. Under the Red Hood. This comic is the direct consequence and most painful blow from the A Death in the Family story. Under the Red Hood, 2005, recounts the return of Jason Todd, someone who has come back from the dead, but not as Robin, but as the new, ruthless villain, Red Hood. Red Hood executes justice in his own style in Gotham, violating Batman's rule that says, "Thou shalt not kill." In reality, Jason unleashes all his anger and frustration with Batman and his failure to take revenge on the Joker. The climax of the drama is in the scenes where Jason captures the Joker and raises a horrifying moral question. If Batman could have killed the Joker and saved Jason, would he have done it? This comic is about Batman's paternal failures, the anger and the betrayal within the Bat family. This story is not an all-out fight between hero and villain, but a familial and psychological battle with the highest degree of emotion. Under the Red Hood is one of the most dramatic and influential stories of the new generation of Batman that shows the lasting consequences of one choice. 5. The Long Halloween. We arrive at one of the best neo-noir Batman stories of all time, a comic that brings Batman's detective spirit to its peak. The Long Halloween, this masterpiece created by Jeff Loeb and the great artist Tim Sale in 1996, shows Batman in his early years of crime fighting. In this story, Gotham is under the control of mafia gangs, which are suddenly thrown into chaos with the appearance of a serial killer named the Holiday Killer, who only attacks on holidays. This comic is a year-long psychological thriller and mystery. The story focuses on the intersection of the lives of Batman, Detective Jim Gordon, and District Attorney Harvey Dent. We witness how these three try to save the city, but tragedy overwhelms them. The Long Halloween beautifully narrates the fall of Harvey Dent and his transformation into the terrifying villain Two-Face. This comic is an essential and mandatory work for every Batman fan, and remember that it was the main inspiration for Matt Reeves' The Matt Batman film.
4. Nightfall. We get to one of the most massive and influential events in Batman history, Nightfall, which was released in 1993. This story wasn't a simple fight, but an all-out assault that shook the entire DC universe and proved that even Batman can be defeated. The main villain of the story is Bane, a physically and mentally super powerful anti-hero whose goal is the destruction of Batman. Bane's strategy was completely intelligent. He releases all the inmates of Arkham Asylum to exhaust and wear down Batman to the point of death. After weeks of non-stop fighting, a completely exhausted Batman finally faces Bane. The shocking and climax moment of the story is where Bane lifts Batman up and breaks his back. This event taught us that Batman is not a god and is vulnerable. Nightfall didn't end there. This story proved that the symbol of Batman is not a person, but an idea, which is why Bruce Wayne, for his recovery, chose Azrael as his successor. This is a long, action-packed epic and essential for understanding Batman's limitations. 3. Court of Owls. We entered the realm of modern comics with a story that created a new urban myth for Gotham, Court of Owls. This comic, written by Scott Snyder and illustrated by Greg Capullo in 2011, quickly became a classic. This story proves that even Batman doesn't know all the secrets of his own city. He realizes that a secret, ancient organization called the Court of Owls has been controlling Gotham from behind the scenes for centuries. The Court of Owls uses expert assassins called Talons, who are practically immortal. This battle pushes Batman to the brink of destruction, both physically and psychologically, because he doesn't know who to trust. This story escalates the fear of the unknown and paranoia to its peak and forces Batman to doubt everything he thought he knew about Gotham. Court of Owls is a great and contemporary story that added more depth to Batman's legacy and showed just how deep and dark Gotham really is. This comic was a turning point for modern Batman. 2. The Killing Joke. It's hard to find a story that matches this comic in terms of impact and darkness. The Killing Joke, written by the genius Alan Moore and illustrated with the phenomenal art of Brian Boland in 1988, is one of the most controversial Batman stories. This comic briefly and horribly explores one of the possible origins of the Joker, that he was a failed comedian who went completely insane after one bad day. The Joker's entire goal in this story is to prove to Batman and Jim Gordon that anyone can go crazy like him after one bad day. To prove this theory, the Joker viciously shoots Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, paralyzing her. This shocking moment left a permanent impact on the DC universe. The Killing Joke elevated the eternal battle between Batman and the Joker to a philosophical and maniacal level. This comic is a psychological study of madness, morality, and the line between sanity and insanity. If you want to understand how dark and deep the relationship between Batman and the Joker is, reading this comic is mandatory. 1. The Dark Knight Returns. And we reach the top of the chart, the comic that changed not only Batman but the entire superhero genre forever. The masterpiece by Frank Miller, released in 1986, is a turning point in comic book history. The Dark Knight Returns shows Batman in a dystopian future, at 55 years old and retired, who is forced to return after years away to confront a violent and collapsing Gotham. This story injected the dark, adult, and gothic tone into comics and essentially ushered in the modern comic era. We see Batman in epic battles against the mutant leader and, of course, the final and horrifying return of the Joker. But the climax scene is undoubtedly the final and iconic confrontation between Batman and Superman.
This battle proves not only Batman's power, but his intelligence and preparedness against a godlike being. The Dark Knight Returns is not just the best Batman comic, but an essential work of art in contemporary culture and a political statement about heroes and the government. Well, guys, this was the list of the top 10 best Batman comics. From the earliest years of crime fighting to the dystopian future, these stories prove that Batman, in whatever form he takes, is always the deepest and most fascinating character in the comic world. Now it's your turn. In your opinion, which comic was missing from this list? Should Zero Year or Damian, Son of Batman, have been on this list? Tell me in the comments. And one important question, would you like our next video to be the top 10 best comics of who? If so, be sure to let me know. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss the next videos. Until another video, goodbye.